Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and we're going to have a look at an extraordinary example of do as I say, not as I do. This time over heat pumps, over gas boilers. There's the Climate Change Committee, or the Climate Change Committee in Westminster, and it's headed by a guy called Chris Stark. I think we need to call him Chris Stark Staring Mad. He's put forward these proposals from the committee, which means that from 2025, all new build homes cannot have gas boilers. The gas boilers are banned in new build homes from, I think it's March 2025. So from March 2025, the house building industry in this country is finished. It's done. Because when people buy new homes, they go, has it got gas central heating? No, we're not interested then. We'll find an older house that has. And they'll have all these houses and they won't be able to sell any of them because people will just keep looking for older houses that do have gas central heating. And of course, what will happen then is the entire house building industry freezes up. You've still got more and more people. And so house prices are about to go through the roof. I mean, brilliant for people who own their own homes. Less so for people who don't. And that's the first thing. So new homes from 2025 cannot have gas boilers. That was his committee. And then he said the other thing that the committee said were, from 2035 you can't buy them at all. So even if you've got a house with gas central heating, from 2035 you can't buy a new gas boiler. So what I'll do is I'll go out in 2034, get hold of a plumber and say, can you do me a favour? Can you change out my gas boiler? Can you put in a brand new gas boiler right there? And I've bought two. So I've got a complete spare. So if anything happens to that first one, we'll just put the second one in. That'll see me and my wife out until the rest of our days. We're fine. Thank you very much. With that and my lifetime supply of coal, I will never, ever go cold. And that's fine. So when this guy's asked, do you have gas in your home? Yes, he says, yes, I do. Why? He says, I live in a flat and it's very difficult to put a heat pump in it. It's also very expensive. Welcome to the real world, Mr. Chris Stark Staring Mad. Let's have a look and see why this hypocrite is such a tosser in bringing in stupid rules for us, the masses, that have to obey. And we don't. We can refuse. We can vote them out. Here goes. So, head of climate watchdog behind the boiler ban plan admits he still has gas heating in his home and saying it is very difficult to install heat pumps in flats like his. We've been saying this for all along. Heat pumps are not suitable for maybe 90% of the homes in this country. They're just not suitable. The houses in this country, the housing stock in this country is so old, is so not built to any kind of modern standard. You're either going to be in flats, in which case it's impractical, or you're in houses that are not insulated to the sufficient level, in which case it's pointless. And even if you do install them, you'll then have to you'll then have to buy other heating sources such as fan heaters and that, because they're not going to be hot enough to heat the home. And so the price, because it's electricity and not cheap gas, is through the roof. It will destroy the economy because nobody's going to have enough money to go out and buy anything. They'll be too busy paying their electricity bill. It's mental. Anyway, the chief of a climate watchdog responsible for lobbying to ban boilers has admitted he still uses gas heating in his home. Climate Change Committee boss Chris Stark Staring Mad from Glasgow said it was very difficult to install heat pumps in flats like his. We know. We've been saying this from day bloody one. His watchdog lobbied the government to ban installing gas boilers in homes from 2025. And to stop selling them completely from 2035. Now, just look at him. You'll see him here. He is the soyest of soy boys, isn't he? He's just pure, unadulterated soy. At the House of Commons Environmental Audit Committee last month, Mr. Stark said the capital cost of installing a heat pump is too high at the moment. And always will be. Because for most people, and we're talking 95% of heat pump installations, they'll need a whole new central heating system, £35,000 to £40,000, and you need to put in all the insulation and everything. It's a £35,000 to £40,000 cost. And unless government are willing to cover that cost, it just isn't going to happen. He said it can be brought down, but that will not happen unless there is a scale installation, a scale production. And there won't be. There absolutely won't be. Britain doesn't have the weather for it. And of course, they're already now looking at the noise pollution of having lots of these fans in close proximity in built up areas. They're saying the noise pollution alone would exceed legal limits. So it isn't going to happen, is it? He said, this is one of our biggest barriers. There's not an installer community for heat pumps at the moment, he said. I have a gas boiler. He said, I wish I didn't, but I live in a flat and heat pumps are very difficult things to put in there because you're not allowed to put them on walls now, you see. This is what they say. They shouldn't go on walls. And if you live in flats, where are you going to put? Because you need one heat pump for every flat. And the thing is, if they're down on the ground level and you're running a pipe up to bring that up, by the time you get up there, it's cold. What else are you going to do? The only way you can do it is to put it on the wall, which is what they're saying you shouldn't do. He said, the boiler engineer he uses thought heat pumps would never work. And that's because everybody who knows anything about them knows they won't. Mr. Stark suggested the government consider tax incentives to make heat pumps more affordable, as well as take steps to drive down the price of electricity. They can make electricity cheap tomorrow. Instantaneously cheap tomorrow. Very simple. 3 little things, right? 1, remove the green tariff. There you go, bang. Number 2, remove the VAT. Bang. There's 2, straight away. Doesn't have to do anything. It's just bing, bing, done. Cheap electricity. Or at least cheaper. Number 3, let's make the supply more intense and therefore driving down the actual cost. How can we do that? If only there was a way we as a nation could produce a lot more electricity very cheaply. I mean, obviously, we've got oil, and we've got gas, and we've got coal. There's 3, and we've got 20,000 years worth of coal. But then you could start fracking. My God, there's about 5,000 years of fracked gas available. But some people don't like that. Little soy boys, like him, mainly. And then, of course, we've got the nuclear option. And if we just built 36 nuclear power stations all around the country, we would never worry again. And it's perfectly clean. And it's perfectly safe. We're not building the Chernobyl types, you know. You're building ones where they fail safe. They fail to close. As in, whenever there's a fail, it automatically scrams. And for those of you who don't know, a very quick lesson. What you do is you'll have your pile, and you've had all your criticality, all your uranium and whatever, uranium oxide, plutonium oxide, that sort of thing. You have all your radioactive material there, and you have control rods that go in. And what you do is you pull them up, and as those control rods rise up, the amount of criticality increases. Because the control rods cut down the amount of neutron flow, because it's neutrons that cause it. And you get fast neutrons, and then you smother it in water, and that slows down the fast neutrons, meaning there's more slow neutrons, so it's easier to achieve criticality. But as you pull the control rods out, obviously these control rods stop the neutrons, so there's fewer of them, and there's more neutrons. Eventually it reaches criticality, and at that point, bang, it's hot, it boils the water, that goes off, turns into steam, whizzes it through a turbine, cools down, comes back in, and you roll it like that, and it's quite there. With modern designs, you have these things here, and the moment the temperature goes up there, the pressure goes down there, there's not enough water there, everything monitored. The moment there's a problem, it fails safe by dropping straight in like that. It's called scramming, and it scrams the reactor, and it takes half a second. Crikey, they are safe as houses. And so that's all you need. 36 nuclear power stations, and we can have cheap energy. But as I say, we've got coal, oil, gas, and fracked gas. We can have cheap, virtually limitless free electricity tomorrow. And at that point, maybe then, heat pumps would be worth it. But you'd have to have 2 for every house, obviously, because one heat pump isn't really going to cut it in a very large house. Might work in a flat if you're on the ground floor. Once you start going up, it won't work in a flat at all because the pipe length is too long. Listen. It came as plans to ban new oil boilers were thrown into doubt following the backlash among Tory MPs, with some government insiders now insisting it was just a proposal. It wasn't. It was part of their manifesto. Now they're doing the reverse ferret. Like I mentioned earlier, they're reverse ferreting this because, again, backlash. Whitehall sources said the initial proposal was spearheaded by Boris Johnson's government. Actually, it was spearheaded by the woman who was blowing Boris Johnson's cock, because this was all Carrie and her push, push, push. He was never green until she started banging him. Then all of a sudden he's the greenest thing on the planet. And they had about 12 kids, so it's a very odd position to be in. Anyway, the proposal, which will ban the boilers in off-grid homes and introduce air source heat pumps by 2026, was criticised by former Environment Secretary. Last week, George Eustice urged the Prime Minister to scrap the plans that fall under the net zero strategy. He compared it to the controversial ULEZ charge in London. The scheme will affect 1.7 million rural properties. Insiders suggest it would leave thousands of voters colder and poorer. It will leave all of us colder and poorer, because there'll be a lot of unemployment, and that means the taxes go up and places will close, and all because little soy boys like him don't like gas because I don't know. Meanwhile, China, another 26 power stations, doesn't give a shit. 27% of all the pollution in the world, China. Us, 0.001%. We can close our country down, it would make no difference. But little soy boy wankers, they just want to leave us poor and cold. Granny can freeze to death, but that's okay, because he can then feel good about himself as he furiously masturbates in front of his cold heat pump. Tossers, I'm coming up. But there you are, he's sitting there, he wants to make sure that we're all cold and all stony broke. I mean, honestly, £35,000 a pop trying to install these things, maybe more. The whole country destroyed, the economy in tatters because nobody can go out and afford to go to a pub, a restaurant, a bar, a cinema, or anything like that. Unemployment through the roof. But hey, look, we've cut our output from 0.001 to 0.0009. Woo! What a wanker! They're all wankers. Every single one of these, they come out and they talk about this and that and the other. They don't ever give you the real figures. They daren't give you the real figures. They just start, it's 90,000 tonnes of something or other. Okay, that's 90,000 tonnes. Let's have a look at that in percentages of the world. What is it now? Oh, it's 0.0001 of a percent. Yeah. What does that make difference? What difference does that make in total? Oh, none at all. There you go, none at all. One volcano going off. More pollutants into the air than mankind does in a decade. And indeed, wasn't it one of the big ones, one of the Philippines, or 92? I can see it. I'm sure it was one of the Philippines in the early 90s. Went up. And it alone, in one volcanic eruption, put more pollutants into the air, more greenhouse gases into the air, than humankind has done. There's no time frame on that. More pollutants went into the air with one volcano, Pinatubo, I think, than the entire... And we're talking the Industrial Revolution, everything. More pollutants for one. It's startling. We make such a tiny difference, and yet, here we are, listening to little skinny runts like Soy Boy there, who say we need to be cold, we need to freeze to death, and we need to make sure that the elderly aren't kept warm enough to keep them alive, just so the planet can be saved. One volcano, mate. Anyway, I shall stop there because he's going to annoy me if I keep looking at that ugly face. You can't see him now, but I can. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I went off at a bit of a tangent there a couple of times, but that's how it happens sometimes. If you like what you see in here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay warm, because winter is coming. Bye.